So, Taylor, we will hand it on over to you. My understanding is you're going to give us an update on the survey you did, and then possibly even talk a little bit about maybe your visioning work that you're doing.
Yes. All right. Let me share my screen. I'll start with a little bit of information about myself. I'm sure a lot of you have already heard my background in this field before, but since this is being recorded and anybody could watch it, I'll give an overview in case there's somebody who hasn't. So I'm Taylor Van Winkle. I'm the Climate Sustainability Coordinator at the county. I'm originally from Wichita, Kansas, so I'm quite a ways away from where I'm originally from, but I've been in Michigan for quite a while, and I have family here as well. So I pretty much came to Michigan about 10 years ago and never left. So I got my biology and history degree from Kalamazoo College here in Kalamazoo. I later went and got my master's in urban and regional planning with an emphasis in climate resiliency work from MSU. I've done lots of different work, but before this work, I was an associate planner in East Lansing, and now I'm the climate sustainability coordinator. A little bit about my position. So the position is a joint position between KC3, this organization, and Kalamazoo County. They jointly secured a grant, funding it for 3 years. It's through the EPA. The first half of that grant is to facilitate the creation of a climate action and climate justice plan. The second half of it is to begin implementation on it, so securing grants, things like that. So that's a very brief overview of what I've been doing. And into the meat of what we came here to talk about today, the Climate Needs Survey. So in October of last year, we launched the Climate Needs Survey. It closed December 31st, so it was open for 3 months. We got almost 500 respondents. It was an online survey. It was directly shared with municipalities across all of the municipalities across the counties, institutions, educational, nonprofit and local organizations. It was posted in libraries. It was announced on news agencies. It was on the county websites and in newsletters and announcements and social media posts and things like that. So that's how it was distributed. And last time I spoke with Fridays for Future, the attendees participated in the survey as well. So y'all also did. So I'll jump into a little bit of what the things some highlights of things we found, and then I'll talk about what we're doing now with community input. So at the beginning of the survey, how often do you think of the impacts of climate change? The majority said that they think about those impacts every single day, all the time. Then what potential impacts to your life are you concerned about due to climate change? Please rank the following choices. Their most respondents said that they were worried about increased food prices, decreased comfort or quality of life, and increased utility bills, followed by transportation costs, healthcare costs, taxes, and trailed by job loss worries. Have you been impacted by any of the following in the last 5 years? All right, so this is going to take a minute for me to describe what this graph means. So there's several categories. Each of the individual questions were able to be answered by saying that particular incidents decreased, increased, remained the same in poor quality, or remained the same in good quality. Or they could say that they had no impact or was not relevant to them. So the first question was flooding in their neighborhood. Many people say that it remained the same, so there wasn't an increase, wasn't a decrease. About a similar amount said that it increased as well. So we're seeing in some neighborhoods an increase, in some neighborhoods none at all. So that sees, you see a disparity of what those individuals are experiencing, and it's very location based, right? Damage from storms to my house or neighborhood. Many individuals said that they experienced an increase in that. Number of extremely hot days. So hot days are always indicated by over 90 degrees. It's called a high heat day. And it's indicated specifically that you have been impacted by it simply keeping you indoors. So if you otherwise would have made a choice to go outdoors, but you said, I'm going to stay inside where there's air conditioning, that impacted your decision. It changed your life choices.
You had a quick question. Did you know what neighborhoods these people were answering from?
So we requested demographic information, and I talk about that a little bit later because it's relevant in I didn't think that it's a lot to go through to wade through all the demographic information we asked for, but specifically we didn't ask for neighborhood information. We asked for township or city or village. So like what municipality you fell under is what we primarily asked. And that's where we get the locational information. Extremely hot days. That's probably the greatest increase we saw from the survey. A lot of people are impacted by high heat days. Number of extremely cold days, so under 10 degrees Fahrenheit, and there was snow, or your work was disrupted, or your children's school was disrupted. There was a slight increase in that. Individuals saw. There was some who said that it actually decreased. Affordability or access to fresh and local produce. A good chunk said that there was a decrease in that amount. Decrease in air quality. Good air quality was a significant, you see that by the large red bar there. So many people in the survey said that they saw a decrease in good air quality, which is pretty expected, especially since this last summer, a lot of individuals in Michigan saw direct impact due to the wildfires in Canada, which put us all indoors for about a week or so. Especially those who were vulnerable to the poor air quality. Good water quality. Several individuals, a good chunk said that they saw a reduction in good water quality. And then access to green spaces. This one actually says that most people remained the same. So there's actually a good access to green space amount, which is good. What do you consider most important when making climate action choices? So these are ranked percentages. So this is a graph showing everybody was asked to rank these. And so, first is what you consider most important, and then 5 would be what you don't consider as much when making those decisions. And so I took that information and then created a ranked graph, and that's what these reflect. So it's the percentages of those rankings. So it's nearly a tie between the consideration for health and safety and environmental benefits, but environmental benefits edges out just a little bit, just a couple percentage points. It's about 1.5% higher than the health and safety considerations, but those are nearly the same. So when people are making important climate action choices, they're thinking about environmental benefits, but also how that will impact their family. Followed shortly by costs, which makes sense. This one, what is preventing you from doing the following? There's a lot going on in this one. I'll verbally describe what's going on. So the red is that I already do it. So there's a lot of this on here. And I'll talk about a little bit later when we get to demographic information why this might be this way. But a lot of it is I already do it. And then the blue, the other larger section, is the blue category, which is the dark blue, which is NA, which is not applicable. So the largest one is red, followed by orange, which is cost. And then the third category, that's the most largest seen in the graph, is not applicable. So questions that perhaps they don't have a home, or they weren't homeowners or something like that. So the questions were, do you use less energy in your home? What's preventing you from doing it? A lot of people said I already do it. Energy efficiency items, a lot of them already do it, but several people say that cost is a factor in preventing them. Small changes to save energy, like weatherization. So implementing those kinds of repairs into their home or changes to the building envelope. Making big changes to save energy in your house or your exterior landscaping. Many people said they already did it. Lots of people said the cost was a barrier. Using less water, for instance, reducing lawn watering or taking shorter showers, things like that. Majority said that they already do that. Majority said they reduce waste, they compost, or they recycle. You can see that there's a significant percentage of individuals who say they already recycle. And that's largely reflective of the fact that Kalamazoo, the majority of the respondents were from Kalamazoo, has a recycling program. So that's good to see that it's a program that's being utilized. Use public transit or carpooling. This one you get a lot of more diversity. And that's a good reflection of the fact that public transit might be one of the things that could be improved significantly. Looking ahead, expansion of those services, or making sure they're more reliable or ready, or things like that. because many people said, I'd like to, but it needs to be more accessible. Move closer to home or move closer to work or school, to reduce your vehicle miles traveled. Many people say they already take that into consideration. A good chunk said it wasn't applicable to them. So buying electric or hybrid vehicles, most people said that the biggest barrier for them is cost. And that makes a lot of sense. Those are big purchases that have high prices. Using renewable energy at home, people said that cost was their biggest barrier. Eating more plant-based foods, many people said they already did it. Many people already said they buy locally grown produce, and many people said they already grow their own food. So those are all advantages of the fact of Michigan, and our location in Michigan has the ability to offer those, right? We have easy, readily access to local produce that's pretty diverse and pretty healthy already. How can local governments support pathways towards increased sustainable options in your life? Most individuals said that they would like to see us pursue federal grants, followed by carbon tax support and a green bank. A green bank is a bank specifically designed to give out loans or financial assistance in the form to secure either business loans, create businesses that are in the green economy, or to have homes implement their home efficiency measures. For instance, there's a local nonprofit agency called Michigan Saves. They're in Michigan. They're actually really unique in that they offer low interest loans to homeowners to implement home efficiency measures. They're actually the first nonprofit green bank in the whole country. So we're pretty unique. We have that access here. Anyways, that's just an example. People did not seem to be very supportive of a property tax millage or government bond passing, which is expected. Okay, so I just showed you a bunch of just information. I'll give you some stats that kind of give us some little bit of a different perspective on what we just talked about. So like we said, 59% of those individuals believe that it already is impacting their lives. The majority of the concerns are about directly impacting people's lives, the concerns that they see every single day, right? Increased food costs, decreased quality of life, increased concerns about utility costs. So those are all concerns and considerations that somebody faces right now, every single day, and particularly is impactful for individuals who are most vulnerable to those rising prices. 31% have been impacted by increased flooding, 53% have increased damages, 68% have been impacted by an increase in high heat days, and 57% have noticed a decrease in the air quality. So those are all broad perceptions, right? These are all perceptions. The question was, do you perceive these things to have happened, right? So the survey didn't ask you to prove anything. It just asked if you felt that there was an increase, right? So there's a perception that these things are directly impacting people's lives significantly enough that they have damages to their home, or that they've made decisions in their life differently based on impacting climate. Any final questions on that? I'll get into demographics in a second. Okay, so now that we looked at the survey responses and how those broke out, and highlighted some percentages, what does that kind of mean for us? What picture does it paint? So a lot of the individuals in the community are already doing a lot of the things we asked, right? There's already a community culture of integrating those lifestyle choices, making those climate adaptive choices, meaning that they have the opportunity to, that we, people who are in furthering climate action initiatives, people who are in the government, working in these programmings, things like that, designing programs, securing grants, they have the opportunity to build on that momentum by continuing to lower barriers to cost and information, which were some of the biggest barriers listed by the survey, and then expanding those choices by bolstering existing successful programs and creating new programs that continues to build off that. So that's what kind of picture it paints, which is optimistic and pretty unique, right? It's good to see that that perspective. But There's a need to diversify our input types, right? So this is where the demographic information comes in handy. Gives us a little bit of a butt to those takeaways. So 38% were from the city of Kalamazoo, so we're urbanites. 78% were self-identified as white or European American. 61% were women. 33% were older than 65. 35% had a bachelor's degree, and 75% were homeowners. So this tells us that a lot of the individuals who responded to the survey, who were either exposed to it, able to respond, had access to a digital platform because the survey was digital. There were some hard copy events. There were some events in person that allowed them to respond hard copy, but the vast majority were answered digitally. Tells us that there's a specific demographic, and these individuals are already, that those takeaways is pretty specific to those demographics, right? And so it's a good perspective to have, but it means that there's a gap still that we should make sure that we're trying to reach, which is why we're diversifying our community input types. So the survey itself was never intended to be the only community input opportunity. It was intended to be the first one, to reach out to the community to get a baseline. And there's continued community input opportunities. These are going to be in person, they're upcoming. So they are designed a little bit differently than the survey was. The survey was just asking individuals to talk about their perceived impacts, the ways that their lives have been impacted, what they would like to see a government program do to change those things in their lives. These community input opportunities ask a little bit of a different question. They're primarily visioning events. They begin by talking about giving the opportunity to discuss climate vulnerabilities specific to Kalamazoo County. So there are they'll be there in person when you attend the events. There's posters talking about how high heat could impact Kalamazoo County, what that could look like, what solutions for high heat there could be in a city of our size and our location, what threats changing habitat shifts could impact, changing pathogens, availability, disease spread, water quality impacts, increased precipitation, what all of those different threats can impact and change in our community. So it talks about that, gives opportunity to educate. And then at the end, it asks questions about asks two questions. One, what are your concerns? Which of these threats that we've discussed or threats that you know that are not a part of what were mentioned, right? Because it's not an exhaustive list. There's lots of things that I did not include in those educational posters, right? You could include so many things, right? So if there's something you're concerned about, tell us. What are you most concerned about happening in your neighborhood that you are going to be impacted by in the coming 5-10 years? So as soon as possible, right? And then question 2, ask individuals to look 20 years ahead, and under a best case scenario, what hopes do they have for how their community will look that has addressed those questions, those concerns? What, under a best case scenario, what stuff has happened to make their community livable, walkable, whatever they would like to see, and ask them to describe it. So this is an opportunity to jointly vision in the community together. And that's what those events look like. The first upcoming one, the closest one, will be on May 7th. It'll be at the Central Branch of the Kalamazoo Public Library. It'll be 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. That's upcoming. This photo here actually is from the event that we already had last weekend in the Kalamazoo Nature Center. Nikki attended. And so she can tell you if there were anything. She can also tell, you can ask Nikki if she had trouble understanding anything or anything like that. So we had an event that was situated in Cooper Township. The upcoming events are in institutions like libraries. So May 7th, Central Branch, so that'll be downtown. It'll be in the evening. It'll be late at night. It'll be 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. And then the second event that's upcoming will be in June 13th, 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. at the Eastwood branch of the Kalamazoo Public Library. And it is intended to diversify not only the types of input, right, in person, talking about visioning, not just ways that it's impacting you, but also the vision that we want to share for the community, but also different times, different locations, making sure that we're reaching out to more rural areas and getting those perspectives as well. There will be more as we move out through the year. They are to be, the locations are to be secured right now. They're in the works, but these are the 2 upcoming ones in the next 2 months that have been secured. Do I see, oh, and then that's the end of my presentation right now. I would love to have some questions. I'll leave this slide up so people can see it. I think that Anne has her hand up.
Yes, I was thinking you really, yeah, you need more diversity in your responses. And what about also going to neighborhoods? It would be a target, an area where you could, reach citizens who might not otherwise have filled out the survey so far.
Those are great suggestions. Thank you. Yes, there's a need to make sure that we're getting as much input as possible from as many different communities. Yeah, and the vast majority of the respondents on the digital survey were from the city. So at this moment in time, I'm attempting to reach out to more rural individuals to make sure that they're having opportunities to input in their community vision as well. But yes, I think that getting the neighborhood associations involved is a great step.
How long are you planning on running this survey and the visioning? The visioning, because the survey's over.
The survey's closed. The community visioning events, I'm intending to have 6 events at the very least before the end of the year. We've already had 1. We have 2 planned, so I'm intending to schedule 3 more. So that we have a schedule.
Okay, the reason I'm asking is the Bike Kalamazoo usually has an event in Vicksburg. Over the summer, there's a bike week, and they do all sorts of things that might pick up different individuals than you've been reaching. I think you should talk to the Douglas Center so that we can reach the north side, which would have very different problems. I don't know the farming communities so much, but if you speak with Gisler, who's the commissioner for the South townships, you might be able to find events where you can reach the more rural areas there. Or some, I don't know who's the commissioner for like the other rural districts, but I think it's very skewed. You got 500 people out of 261,000 people responding. And we need to get responses, I think, from people who might not, they might think climate's a hoax, and but they don't want to fill out a survey telling you that. And I think we have to find out more about how the silent majority, that's a term from the past, is reacting to some of this and what they see. And that's why I asked about, did you have neighborhoods? Because Lake would be very concerned with flooding, whereas West Edge Hill might not be. And so I think where a person lives is also a very crucial bit of that kind of information. So it's a matter of how do you reach out to the non-city people, Yep.
Well, those are great suggestions,
and also talk to El Concilio and see if they're having a function that the people might be willing to fill out the visioning also.
Yes, they're a great organization, and I've been in contact with the director to set up an event.
I don't remember how much was covering the electrification of everything in the visioning, you know.
Yep, it doesn't specifically ask. If there are broad questions designed to allow for people to answer complexly as they can in that kind of setting. So electrification is mentioned in the informational section as one of the solutions to the issues. The way that the information is set up is that we talk about the projections, and then the way that it'll impact Kalamazoo County, and then ways that there are examples of solutions that would be climate actions. And so I do believe that offering the different types of solutions to individuals during that educational portion is really important, because some people might not know of any types of, they might not be able to think of what kind of solutions they would like to see in their community in 20 years. So I think it's important to integrate those. Yes, Marianne.
Taylor, that particular comment struck me by reminding me that they might feel more comfortable if they were in a group. So I'm wondering whether there might be focus groups with, for example, El Concilio folks, where there could also be a translator available.
Focus groups are something that the council that is overseeing my position will be considering into the future. At this juncture, we have not set up focus groups, but that is something that it can be integrated, and it does have its own place for getting different kinds of input for sure.
Along with that thought, the Islamic Center, and did they have a lot of Arabic and French speakers there?
Well, my question to you, Taylor, is I did your survey and I really thought, oh, this is great. I'm wondering why you say your next events are visioning events rather than survey. Well, this is what I have observed, that there is there are people who do not believe in climate change, or who are not really very concerned about it, and they're also the people who do not recycle, and that I think just filling out the survey makes people remember, and it reminds them that recycling is important. There are many questions that you ask on this survey and choices you give us, and I think they remind people of things that they need to start doing. So I think you should just give the survey to more of these different groups that would get you a different feedback from your questionnaire. I know it's a lot more work.
Yes, Mary.
Well, I want to provide a different perspective than Anne provided. I know that, Taylor, you would have liked to have a broader group of people represented in the survey, but there's a point at which you need to stop with that task and get on to the other tasks before you. So I think that particularly since recycling, for example, is not going to solve all of our problems, being able to have people talk about what they envision in the future will also remind them of the things they ought to be doing, and but also get at things that are possible. So thanks for moving on from that.
Deb?
Maybe there's a way that some of our community groups can provide educational events that will get some of these comments out into the daylight, and I'm wondering if we do solicit comments like that, if we might be able to pass those along to you, Taylor. And not that you can integrate individual comments into the plan, but I just think to get a bunch of people's comments that are not going to be into the part of the visioning process could be destructive, because we have created an environment where all of the white people are making these decisions and the other people have not been included. But we need to figure out a way to integrate some of the things that are important to large groups of people. And all climate solutions have an effectiveness rating. Not everything impacts how much carbon's being released into the atmosphere or how much we can pull out of the atmosphere. So I just think education could be the way to get buy-in before the actual plan rolls out. So, but listening to those and, you know, following up with people could be community group responsibility to advocate for those kind of things, because this Kalamazoo Climate Crisis Coalition does have a direct line to Taylor. My 2 cents.
All right, so there's several things that we've kind of touched on, and I appreciate all of the input. It's really, really great. I agree that we have to keep getting input, different types of input, from different communities, from as much as possible. Not the in-person community events, the visioning events that are ongoing are not the only form, right? We had the survey and that closed. The community input events are going forward, but then also there will be opportunities for feedback, public feedback on the creation of the plan through a public hearing process, through open public commentary periods, things like that. So there'll be other opportunities to hear, not just in this format. There's lots of different formats. And then also in terms of getting awareness out of it, the community visioning event does kind of try to integrate education into that process, right? It's hard a survey is not the best way to deliver educational information, right? Because it's comprehensive, it doesn't allow for nuance, right? For discussion, those kinds of things. It's not the best format, right? And so I would say, in a way to create buy-in and in the community, awareness, being out in the community, attending events, education, lectures, right? All of these things are other things that I do that are outreach, that are not community input. Those are two different things. So part of my job is community outreach, which it does focus almost exclusively on educational, telling people what climate action is, what the climate work we're doing is, those kinds of things. And then there's community engagement. And those are two separate things when you're talking about launching a plan. And so this is kind of community input, not kind of, it is. It's community engagement, it's engaging the community. And then the other side is output, me telling them stuff. And the other one is them telling me stuff, right? So that's kind of, it goes both ways, and it's important to have both of those ongoing at the same time. So while this particular discussion is talking about the input that I'm requesting and the things that I've received, there are other opportunities where I'm doing output as well. So remind the community of climate action initiatives that do exist, things that they can do like recycling, reminding them things like that. But then also making sure that there's an awareness of the work that we're doing that's ongoing. And the work that Justin's doing, and the work that all of the recycling team at the city's doing, and all of the KC3 is doing. There's a lot of stuff going on. And like Deb said, it's a community, it's all of us working together to make sure that we have as much we permeate into the community as much as we can. Yeah. Does that help address the concerns?
Yes, it does. And I didn't realize you were doing educational events. That's wonderful.
I do presentations talking about the work that I'm doing. And I've done several of those as well. Yeah. And Nikki can attest that there is some educational components to the community input sessions.
Oh,
right?
there was a lot. I mean, the posters you made.
I do agree that we do have to continue our efforts to try to reach as many people as possible. And that is something that I am working on and doing, and reaching out to, like I said, I've met with organization directors and tried to create events, and all of that is behind the scenes and not necessarily at the time to talk about outcomes yet, but it's in progress. So I appreciate all of you guys' input to help direct that.
Okay. Anne.
Well, what is your end goal?
What is the end goal of me? Of the position of?
Well, yes, after 3 years, I mean, you have your project is to come up with a plan. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what is the plan that would be implemented?
So we're putting together a plan. We're facilitating the creation of a climate action, climate justice plan for the county. My last talk to Fridays for Future went into the nitty gritty about what it is. So that will give you more information. I'll give you just a brief overview, of course. But what we're doing is creating that plan for the countywide efforts, right? So that's integrating community input from the city of Kalamazoo, but also across all the county, all the townships, all of the villages, making sure that their municipal staff's involved as well as their residents. My position's overseen, the creation of the plans overseen by what's known as the Climate Action and Climate Justice Advisory Council. And so they are composed of stakeholders in the community and experts in their fields, as well as community leaders, and some municipal staff as well. Justin's on the council, and they oversee the direction of the plan, the creation of a plan. That the creation of it is to set strategies and goals for the county to launch climate action initiatives, and it gives them metrics on how to do that, what they should be looking for, whether or not those things are actually reducing. It gives all of those metrics and measures and outcomes and all of those things. That's what the plan will look like, and it's supposed to be put together by halfway through the 3 years. So we're actually about 10 months into this process. So another 9 months, we should have a draft of it and getting it through the adoption process ideally. And then the last half of my position, this grant, is dedicated to beginning implementation on those strategies identified in the plan. Yep.
Thank you.
We appreciate your input, your expertise, and your patience with us, Taylor.
I'm here. I'm all ears all the time. I had my email address up there, but I'll put it in the chat in case anybody else would like to reach out to me. I frequently get information from community members all the time, just telling me about events happening, telling me about things that they would like me to know about. Feel free to send it along. I can't always promise a response if it's just sending me research or something, but I can promise that I'll look at it.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Okay, thank you.